Welcome to another Coffee with Samso, where we talk with ASX companies and CEOs alike about their projects and why they like their projects so much. We're here at the University Club in Crawley. Now today I've got Adavale Resources here with me, with Allan Ritchie, who will be giving us, the story about what's happening. It's a bit offbeat for us. Finally, I think I like this story because it's nickel sulphide in Tanzania, Africa story. But Allan, maybe just give us a quick intro about yourself and let's hear the story.
Yeah, it's great to be here with you too. I've been looking forward to it. The Adavale stories, we're a junior nickel sulphide explorer, and we're leveraged for exploration success. Right now, we've got our team on the ground for the last week and a half, doing the next phase of our exploration that will lead to some drilling by the end of June at the latest. Let me try and over-deliver, but I promise the first half we'll be going for some intercepts. I know the market wants to hear about that, and so do we as a board. So we're completely focused on that. But just taking you back through our little journey, we began as a new board about 5.5 months ago. A new board and management that got together and focused on our Tanzanian nickel assets. We had 2 nickel licenses at the time. We had the board changes involved bringing Tanzanian mine builders into the team. So with Grant Pierce, he spent 15 years living in Tanzania. Rod Chittenden, he's had 9 years in Tanzania. These guys have taken exploration to first gold pour for Grant, with Resolute and the Golden Pride project. He was country head of Barrick in Tanzania. So this is a significant focus, and this began a change. Then what we did, after getting the right team in place, we began to focus on our assets. We knew we had the right metal, nickel. The battery metals thematic is so strong out there. The nickel price is soaring. So we focused on obtaining more licenses. Now, we happen to have our first 2 licenses surrounding a very lucrative, what's the world's largest undeveloped resource. It's 58 million tonnes of 2.62% nickel. This resource we felt soon enough would be a developed or about to be developed resource. So we knew it was time to find some very good ground, further ground, and expand our focus on our nickel assets in Tanzania. So to do it smartly, we acquired this comprehensive BHP data. It was based on the United Nations Development Programme data from the 70s, where some funding was given to a lot of nations to help discover further resources in their countries. And in Tanzania, some fantastic geochemical analysis was provided there. We've got all of that data, rock chip sampling, soil sampling, stream sediments. On top of that, BHP then added a lot more data. They flew geothem surveys along a 160 kilometre line of strike. It's fantastic data. So with that data, we acquired 5 more licenses. So now we have a portfolio of 7 well-selected licenses. We ran the geochemical and geophysics analyses to really make those quality selections. We also, as having the right team in place, we attracted more good people. So the geoscientist who actually worked on all of that, compiling that BHP data, back in 2007 to 2011, he joined us as a consultant geo and helped us with those selections. Not only with the selections of additional licenses, but smart selection of where to focus and hone our exploration activities. So in November, December, and look, that I must say that I can't overstate how important that BHP UNDP data has been for a small cap like us. to really, save, as a greenfield player, I mean, we've saved so much time. I mean, it must be at least a year of time and cost expense that we've just leaped and bound over. We then did, in November, December, we did a good broad cross-section across our 4 licences that surround the major Kabanga nickel deposit, with some good, rock chip sampling and, a lot of good soil sampling. We've come back with some, some understanding of where, I guess what's important is to find elevated nickel readings, but also coincident with that, elevated copper readings. When you have those two, and in particular above a mag low, you start to find a very interesting vector to a nickel ore body. In fact, the Kabanga nickel deposit, that discovery began on some geochemical analysis that gave us some elevated nickel with coincident elevated copper, which after the BHP electromag surveys were conducted, happened to be across a good mag low. And so we're following some of that methodology and feeling quite confident and excited on this next phase of exploration, that we will start to replicate some of that and have our own discoveries. But we'll be methodical, okay? We will fast track it. I will do it before the end of June. We'll have a drill hole or 3 down. We'll figure that out as our information comes to light. But right now we have our competent person, Dave Dodd, who's been responsible for nickel and PGE sulphide discoveries across the African belt. He's a world-renowned nickel sulphide expert. He's worked on 30 nickel and PGE projects over his years, and he knows the terrain and area very well. He's on the ground right now with our senior geos in hot pursuit on high priority targets, I'll call them. Across each of our licences, we've identified areas that we feel are replicating the Kabanga nickel discovery process, where there's elevated nickel and elevated copper sitting over a mag low. And as we work through, the teams work through getting some tight infill sampling. So we're going to reduce the line and station of our sample size, make a very focused target. Soon after, in about 4, maybe 6 weeks, we'll have the ground EM teams follow our soil sampling geos, who will give more feedback as they go along and progress that story, so we can get a much more focused ground EM survey conducted. That'll help give us some depth, a little bit about the structure of the ore body. That'll give us a lot of very good clues as to where to go and put our drill intercepts in first. So that's a very focused and fast-tracked approach that we're performing. I think it's an exciting time. The board, and management, a number of investors are pretty excited about where we're going. So I think this is a great time for the company.
I think as you touched on, the market sentiment is really nickel. This EV or type battery metals kind of flavour. Yeah. And I saw a video with Robert Friedland saying that it's like musical chairs, and there's only 6 chairs, and you better watch out because you're going to end up with no chairs. Mm-hmm. So I think that's quite true, and there's no mystery about that. That's why I liked your story in that sense. Your market cap's 20 million plus. It's and thereabouts. You're a junior, but you've got this massive deposit next door to you. Mm-hmm. Your signatures, from I can see from your presentation, looks similar, which means at least you're in ballpark. And it makes, at the end of the day, exploration is exploration. It's about methodically going through the points and ticking them off. Yeah. And that's what I quite like, because in this day and age, there's probably quite true in a statement that there's not enough nickel sulphide in this world to supply what we're going to be seeing. I call this the EV revolution, right? Because I don't think we realise that that's the future. I mean, we do realise,
Yeah.
but the significance and speed's going to be a lot faster than we think, you know. So yeah, can you just run through with us the prospectivity of what you have? Obviously, you know, you got this Kabanga stuff sitting next to you. You know what? I mean, obviously there's excitement. That's why you guys are there. And, you know, you're spending money on the ground, like you said, because you believe in it. So just give us the fuel, not geological, but you know that
a little bit. Yeah. Okay. I mean, look, it is exciting, and you look at analogues in various continents, from the Voisey's Bay or you know the Albany Fraser Belt here in Australia, where you've got a craton like the Yilgarn Craton and a mobile orogenic belt like the Albany Fraser Belt, which has had you know mafic, ultramafic intrusions. Bringing you know the sulphide deposits to the surface and contaminating with some nickel or copper or PGEs, as we often find. Similarly, we have that same analogue and the same age rocks, you know, Mesoproterozoic rocks. In Tanzania, we've got the Tanzanian Craton and the Congo Craton, and this mobile belt, which is the Cariagui-Ancolian Belt. And across that, we have an alignment, a mafic, ultramafic alignment. It's the Cabaran mafic, ultramafic alignment we're focused on, but it's quite a long alignment that covers a few other countries. We're focused on Tanzania, and there is a highly prospective nickel sulphide replication of not only these other analogues around the world, but of course with our neighbour, who have made a significant discovery, 2.62% nickel. That's high grade.
Yeah,
well, it's exciting. 58 million tonnes. It's nice. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think 2.62 is it's good grade, right, for nickel, and you got 50 million tonnes there.
Yeah.
So, can you give us an idea of, obviously Africa, like everything else, it has its issues, and so does Australia with
sure.
You know. But what are the issues? Maybe you can go through that would scare some people, and I know a lot of people who work in Africa, and they do really well. So obviously they're not scared of that issue, and it does work, right? It's not the unknown. You know,
many successes in Africa, definitely, you're right, it does work, but I hear you, and I understand that question. I think right now in Tanzania, I'll speak about, is in it's beyond an inflection point. It's in a very exciting phase. The recent activities of Barrick, you know, in the press, their Twiga Minerals dividend is now US $250 million paid. The government of Tanzania owns 16% of that project, so that's a free carry to Tanzania. That's now called the Barrick model, okay? And our neighbour, the Kabanga nickel deposit, has recently, we've seen in the media, a $664 million investment, a framework agreement that's been seen the President Magufuli at the signing ceremony. There's an investment in not only associated infrastructure and the deposit itself, but the building of a Class 1 nickel refinery in Tanzania. This will support a number of the smaller miners, even the artisanal miners that we see in African nations like Tanzania, where there'll be a Class 1 nickel refinery hundreds of kilometres, a few hundred kilometres down the road. This is going to change mineral resource economics for a number of people and in that region. And of course, well, we're right on that doorstep. So we're pretty excited about where Tanzania is heading. President Magufuli is in his second 5-year term. He was re-elected at the end of October. His new cabinet's in. Mining minister's been, has also been in his second term as well, Dodo Biteki. Very supportive of foreign investment in mining. It's stated, but there's action as well. And I think we can all take hope from that. Our neighbour now has a special mining licence. These are the 25-year licences. So they, can be progress their mining activities with confidence. The news is good every day. There's new infrastructure projects that are being announced in Tanzania with foreign investment, new power projects. We're more than optimistic. And look, we have obviously our team in Tanzania. We've got a GM in Tanzania. We've got our senior geos in Tanzania. We've got, they've been there for a few decades together. We've got fantastic intel. We feel very confident about what is happening there. And travel's quite good too. We've got our competent person, Dave Dodd. He's in South Africa. He's now currently in Tanzania, exploring around our licenses. It wasn't a challenge at all to get him across to Tanzania. And, on the way back, they'll do a 2-day COVID test, and he's back in South Africa. So it's, it's really open for business. We're all very confident of that. I talked to a few other Aussie listeds that have assets in Tanzania, and we're all quite excited about a future trip there. And I think I guess I'm holding back here a little bit. We're very bullish on Tanzania being open for business, and we'll see some good results from this too.
I mean, I have a theory that with the world going down on green energy, the ESG, and all this kind of stuff, I think that the old ways of being afraid of the Africas, the Asia, Southeast Asia, the Americas, all these kind of sort of things, they need that foreign investment now, so they'll be more transparent. Is my theory.
Very true.
Are you seeing that? I mean, do you feel that? I guess or in the people that you talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we're actually seeing great headlines of actual investment in Tanzania and across the East African belt too. I mean, it's been quite reassuring to see that confidence boost, and President Magufuli, I think, is very clear on inviting foreign investment from big miners and small miners alike. He's actually been quite supportive of the small mining community too. So, small caps like us can enjoy that, and with big investments from some of the larger mining groups in Tanzania, there's a real build here of confidence in where Tanzania is going. I mean, you probably know Allcorp and Peak. They're very close to having their special mining licenses. I think I saw some Allcorp media recently, so that where the MD was very excited about where that can progress. So everyone's quite, I've talked to a lot of investors, a lot of other miners and explorers. There's a lot of confidence out there for Tanzania, for sure.
I think with a lot of viewers who recently been following what's coming out of Coffee Samso, we've seen a lot of I think it's good stories. I mean, every story is good as long as you've got the key ingredients of good management, good thinking. But I like these kind of stories because, and I was very keen to speak with yourself, is because you're the sort of first African exploration story that have come across the table. Because as we go forward, I mean, we've had this really bad pandemic, and everyone's sort of in that mood. And as we now lead to the point where we can see the sort of bright lights at the end of the tunnel, my sort of descriptive analogy, those that have these assets, the prospectivity has not changed. The climate has changed, but the fact that you're next to 2.69% nickel, a mineable conception, you've got a favourable sort of market for your products, that EV revolution we spoke about. And we're in one of the best, in my 3 decades in this industry, of funding and being appreciated for good results and good. So, as you said right at the beginning, the right mix is there. So I think you know, I mean, look, I'm the first person to say I'm always aware of going to Africa as an investment. But I think everything seems to be, all the ducks are in line.
Aligned, aren't they?
Let's hope they stay in line.
Yeah.
but yeah,
Sure.
do you in your you know, when you talk to people, you're in the markets and everything else. Are you hearing the same stories, or am I in la la land?
No, you've got it. You know, it's with the right metal, all the battery metals. It's a very exciting space. That thematic is solid. The commodity prices of each of the battery metals are significant. Nickel is, well, you know, it's the 20,000 mark is right in front of us there. So it's in 6 months. Where was that 6 months ago? 7 months ago, 10 or 11,000. So, you know, there's a story in just that commodity price alone. You know, the nickel, you know, the chemical cathode will require nickel, a lot of nickel. I think forecasters, and I'll leave it to forecasters, but I've read, you know, forecasters talking about demand outstripping supply of class 1 nickel, and specific to class 1 nickel. So sulphides certainly are a class 1 nickel potential, so that's what we're excited about. Class 1 nickel demand will outstrip supply. It used to be a bullish case of 23, 24. It seems to be more the base case if I read, from reading various forecasters out there. Obviously we've seen graphite plays and cobalt plays and you know, copper plays all having a tremendous run. All of these important metals in the battery. And Tanzania does have quite a few of these battery metals.
Well, most of Africa.
Most of Africa does. And I would say the president there is quite aware that there's a lot in Tanzania too. So it's an exciting time, I must say. And that's what I hear. Excitement from so many investors and explorers alike. So,
is the funding still buoyant? Are they still, or I should say the money people, are they still excited in this, you know? They're moving sort of still with the resource sector?
I'm seeing news all the time of new IPOs or additional follow-on funding. Look, we've been, you know, very privileged. You know, we've got a good amount of cash, 2.3 mil as at the end of the year, and end of December 2020. We've been, you know, I guess, privileged to have some instos take a private placement. I mean, Ausbil Global Resources, you know, was part of that team. We're supported by Taylor Collison and Foster's Stockbroking. We've got some great instos on board, so, you know, and we're well funded for our activities and for quite some runway too. So, and I think, you know, you're saying that there's a great time to be able to, you know, get equity funding or debt funding. You know, especially for exploration projects are an exciting point. I think there's a good leverage in exploration success. So as discoveries are either being about to be made, hopefully like us, or as follow-on discoveries are being determined or extensions are being determined, you know, explorers are getting very easy capital raises. And there's a great return to investors for that too. I think it's got to be the right metals though. I mean, there is a commodity super cycle backdrop for sure. And a lot of commodities are certainly rallying. I do think the EV revolution that you speak of, and you know the EV battery market well, the commodities that make up these anodes and cathodes are, you know, the critical elements. And, you know, lithium's had all of them are having fantastic runs. And there's a long future for this. I mean, this is 10, 20 years of
I think we're just seeing the tip of what could be. And, you know, if everything's electrified, you know, Jaguar's saying by 2025, you're not going to find hydrocarbons Jaguars anymore, and all our existing hydrocarbon cars are going to be worthless, and, you know. Well, not so much, but
collector items.
Collector items, antiques.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, obviously, you know, like everything else, like, you know, we touched on this, and I sort of try and sort of emphasise it without being overemphasized in the sense that, when exploration and how we find things has never really changed. It's about how much money was in our pocket.
Yep.
And whether, I could be right next to, say, a Kabanga, and I only have a little bit of money. That doesn't mean that the land that I hold is less prospective than now. It's just now that you are, and this is all over the case, right? And we've spoken to so many stories, is that the money is finally the money is there, and the discoveries are getting made, and the noises that you hear in the market is because all the ducks are lined up, and
Yes, they are.
So to the likes of Adavale, I think, look, the geology has not changed for millions of years.
Yeah.
What was sniffed at 20 years ago is probably still there.
Sure.
It's the fact that they never went further. I think that's the key, right?
That's a good one, actually. I mean, and over time, different commodities have their pride of place. I mean, iron ore was, I think, what BHP were looking for particularly. But, you run your surveys and geochem analysis and you're picking up a whole range of chemistries. Was nickel as attractive back in the 90s?
Correct. Yeah.
So, I think with the information we've got now, we can see a whole range of elevated readings of particular mineralisations. We're most excited about the elevated nickel and elevated copper. We're quite committed to that. That whole precinct, if you like, is the prospectivity belt is also solid for PGEs. So, the platinums and palladiums and rhodiums and so on that are just rocketing along and a very important part of our electrified future. So there is an interesting series of prospectivities available, and gold, of course. There's a lot of gold there too. But just sticking to the battery metal, or the whole electrification EV thematic, Tanzania, and in particular our belt in that Cabaran mafic ultramafic alignment. It's solid for those commodities that are very important right now, and I believe for 10, 20 years to come.
I think it's a good point, when you're looking for iron ore and you go back into your boss's office and say, look, I found some elevated nickel. You're just going to get thrown out the door, right? So,
don't say it, don't say it.
so similarly, if you're looking for nickel, it goes, I've got a high grade of iron ore. But, and that happens all the time, as we know, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
Yeah.
Look, going forward, look, I mean, I'm obviously in exploration by blood, and I enjoy the story. But going forward, you touched on this briefly, I know, but from a shareholder point of view, what kind of news flow are we going to be seeing? And obviously, if you don't put the news flow, they're all going to shoot you, right? So
I know. I'm here to deliver. That's what we do. I'm going to try and over-deliver too. But and thank you for asking that question. I wish I mentioned it earlier. News flow is critical, and we like to let our investors and new investors know as much as possible. We update the market. We never overspruik the market at all. We just want to give good updates of our activities, and especially the more exciting ones. And we're leading to, as I say, by the end of June, a promise to have some intercepts.
Okay, we'll
hopefully
note
nice
that
and
down.
shallow. Yeah, I know, it's noted down. And so nice and shallow, I hope, and high grade, but let's see what we do. But, with the exploration activities we're conducting right now, the infill sampling across some what we think are high priority target areas across our licences, we'll be doing that for 3 months. Okay. In about 4 weeks, we'll have a follow-on with our ground EM teams deployed to sites with the new data. Now, we kind of have a very good idea what to do right now, but of course with new data, we'll improve that, focus it, start to develop what the depths look like of the ore body, the structure of that. And of course, and we'll be updating each piece of this. When we get high reads, when we know it's sitting above mag lows, when we're getting more confidence, when we're deploying our ground EM guys with the results that they come back. And then, of course, when we get those drill holes in. So there's going to be a good a good level of information coming out over the next 3 months and beyond.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
So yeah, news flow is important.
Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
All right, Alan, look, fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
And I hope we can continue to follow your story, and you know, we'll definitely keep an eye in June, because if you don't deliver, mate, they're going to be gunning for you.
I know. Okay. Don't worry, we'll deliver.
Okay, look, Alan, thank you again.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, and as I said, I like the whole exploration side of things, and we all know Africa's very well endowed. So
Yes.
look, good luck, and look, let's follow the story.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you.